So, hello everyone. I am Sharon. We are a challenge eating Zoom session, and today with us is one of our guest speaker and a dear friend of mine, Tim, which is an amateur futurologist and a democracy aficionado. I don't know how to say that. But yes, wow, your profile, it's really hard to read. But he is the founder of codo. He lives between two states like South Africa and Sweden. He's a great philanthropist and a good-hearted person. Yeah, I wish more teams, replicas of him would be in the world. Yes, and I believe that's a short to the point introduction. So welcome, team, to share his platform with much success and appreciation.
Brilliant, thank you, Sharon. Yeah, it's gonna be quite brief, and I'll show you a little bit what it looks like, and then we can talk about how we could use it. I'll just give you some background. So this all started probably about 10 years ago when a friend and mine were talking about democracy and how could we improve democracy. And I said, and we come up with, we should make a virtual Congress or whatever, where people could sort of comment and vote on what the politicians were commenting and voting on. And that led me, okay, I'm gonna book the term direct Democrats in Sweden. And then it turned out that somebody already owned that, and then research then led me to this newly started three direct democratic parties or movements that came together and wanted to create a joint party. And that led me to this concept of liquid democracy. So that is basically when you combine direct democracy and representative democracy, and you get like the best of two worlds, which means that if I want to, I can vote on every single issue myself, but nobody has that kind of time or that kind of knowledge. So when I don't know what to vote, and I could delegate my vote, and I can give my vote to a political party or to an organization or to a person, or to several different persons in several different areas. So that really excited me because it was like, wow, we really hacked democracy. We figured out how democracy should work. Because if we had a system like this, we'd have far better politicians, far better politics, way deeper democracy in society. So but there was no such platform at the time. And then a few, but I was still involved anyway in that movement. And then some platforms started popping up. We started building one. That's how I met Sharon, building a version of that. But what we kind of realized as we were building this pure democracy platform was that democracy is more than just voting. It's way more social. It needs to be a part of your life, and that's like you can't go and vote as a separate thing. Everything you do is a vote for the world you want to live in. So that was one realization, and the other realization is much broader than just voting. It's all the debating and discussing, and there's all fact finding. There's all the figuring out how to allocate resources, prioritizing what you put. It's a whole ecosystem. So we ended up thinking, okay, we need to work more from an ecosystem perspective, which is why it's been such slow work. It has taken so long to get where we are. And then along the line, we kind of realized that, well, maybe we need to start at even a more granular level, a community level, and build up, because the whole idea of building a structure that people somehow are going to adopt, it needs to be meaningful in your daily life. So that morphed into what we're working on now, which is codo. The tagline is growing together, but basically what we're trying to build is a bit like a Tinder for change makers, so a dating site for people that want to change the world, is how I like to think of it. So what we're trying to do is create a place where you can create a profile of like what are the change I'm looking to create in the world, what am I prepared to do, what have I got to offer to anybody else who wants to make a change, and a site where you can do this basic matchmaking between me, local projects like what's happening close to me, who needs help close to me, help that I can offer, who needs help, maybe monetary help or developer help or some other help on the other side of the planet. So that's like the first step to sort of start creating the connections, which is also what we're working on, this connectathon that we're doing on every equinox. We just bring people together and see what connections we can make during 24 hours, and then we see what comes from that. It's really up to the participants. And the platform that we're building is basically the first step is creating the connections. But then also what the next second step we're working on is creating more useful tools for communities. So if or groups. So like if we want to run a soup kitchen or we want to build an orphanage or whatever we want to do, that we have like tools where we can now create like tickets for volunteers. Like I need 3 people to come in and chop tomatoes this Sunday between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning for our soup kitchen. And then other people in the community can like now sign on. Okay, I'll take that hour. I'll do that. I'll show up. And, and then they show up. They do it. They chop tomatoes, and then they can sort of claim that little token, that ticket that they've done this. Then that shows up on their profile, and then like if Muftu is contacting me about a project I'm running, I can see, oh, he's done like 40 hours of community work these last 2 months. Okay, that's definitely someone that I'm interested in talking to or working with. Or if Muftu has a project that he's looking for funding or is looking for me to contribute, I'm much more likely to contribute if Muftu already has contributed himself. So the idea is we're building a system where we automatically start funding the pillars of local community. So the people who do the most for their community are the ones who would first get funding from everybody else, because those would be the people that it makes most sense to help because they're really supporting their communities. Then as we continue developing the platform, we will also bring in the whole idea of liquid democracy. So you can also write proposals, comment on proposals, you can vote, you can delegate your votes. Like if I think that Sharon is much more knowledgeable than I am in our environmental questions, I simply, like in all the questions where I have a vote in environment, I'm going to give those questions, the right to vote for me to Sharon, and he can just vote in my name. And if I don't agree with him in any one question, I just simply vote actively, and then my vote will trump his vote. But otherwise, Sharon is my representative in this area. So we're building in these things to make a very granular, down from bottom up kind of system of cooperation. And we also want to build in some kind of marketplace where people can sell goods and services in a peer-to-peer way, and that what a lot of we're doing is trying to fuel something we call the altruistic wallet. So the idea is, this was born out of the idea that, okay, we're building a network platform, open source platform tool. We're going to have to charge some kind of voluntary fee for people to use it, or even a freemium version where you get a little bit more service and more access if you pay a bit more, or if you pay, otherwise it's for free. Because it's democracy based. We can't allow advertising, we can't allow data mining, so it has to be, the only business model to sustain itself is grants, which is not a great business model, because sooner or later you run out of money and you have to compromise, or you're funded by your users. So we chose that we need to be funded by our users. We're not talking about a lot of money. Maybe if you're a European, maybe 10 euro per year is a basic gift. If you live in South Africa, maybe 1 euro, because, depending where you come from, you have different assets. And maybe not even that. Maybe people in Europe will help people in South Africa. We'll see how that goes. The point is that if we have 100,000 users or even 1 million users on the platform, we'll be making a lot more revenue than we need. So what do we do with all the surplus? Now, the tradition would be like, okay, we have a foundation and you can write grants and we'll have a bunch of people who decide who gets what money. But rather, we decided we want to do it in a different way. We call it the altruistic wallet. So we want to give everybody dividends, like the money coming into the platform, we just simply divide among everybody in the platform, but they can't spend it on themselves. They can only spend it on somebody else. That's the idea with the altruistic wallet. So they can spend it preferably on community projects. And this way, we're hoping to sort of use the platform to feed money and resources back into the ecosystem in a continuous loop. And I think that probably is maybe the most interesting thing about the platform is this economic model, because once you start working with that model, you can you can use that in a lot of different areas. There's a lot of ways you could fund this altruistic wallet, and it would be individual. Robert would have one, Uri would have one, Svetlana would have one, and other types of dividends could come into that wallet. And it really is just a democratic tool to decide collectively where will this money do the best use, come to best use according to me. And most likely we'll crowd source, and we'll use the wisdom of crowd to figure out where is the money best spent. And in that we're actually building one of the two, or both of the two basic foundational ideas of a global democratic system that was like completely global, like could even replace the United Nations, in a way that, because there's like two functions of government basically. One is writing laws and the other is distributing resources. So through the altruistic wallet and delegation of wallets, we could quite effectively share resources in a really, really effective and granular way with a lot of clear feedback. And through the liquid democracy tools, we could also start working on policy writing, like everyone would have their own identity because of like what they put into the platform and the amount of volunteering they do, or et cetera. So you have a clear identity here, and you can still be voting anonymously. So it's quite exciting because it's theoretically possible that this could work. And I know there's lots of other ideas, but I don't know how theoretically possible they are. So it's much more fun to work with something that's theoretically possible, could actually change the world, than not having a clear idea how that's going to work. So I am going to share with you just a look at what the platform looks like. Several of you were already familiar with this. If you aren't, please feel free to create a profile and share it with your friends. So it's called, the platform, the back end is called Circles. It's an open source project we've been working on over this last year, this particular version of it. But as we haven't figured out, we want it to be a federated system. So there are lots of Circles servers and they talk to each other. But the whole talking to each other, we don't know how to do that yet in a very effective way. It's quite complicated. So what we're doing is we're launching it as on one server, the codo, and on there you can create a bunch of your own circles of your own projects or your own communities. And when the time is, when we come solve the problem of interoperability, then all these separate communities can just move on to their own servers, and then we have sort of a distributed system. And then the next step is that all identities will be completely decentralized. So we're working step by step toward a decentralized system. But at the moment it's centralized, but that's the only way to get it done. So if you create, like, this would be your landing page, it'll look a lot nicer in the next couple of weeks, because now it just looks like a Google thing. But basically, you have you create a profile. If you're working on Brave browser, you won't get this page. But if you use one of the other browsers, you'll get like a login or create an account sign up here. Just a tip if you don't see anything. You can just create an account. You can like follow or skip steps if you like. And what you have is a search bar, and you have like your favorite circles. So these would be communities you're engaged in, or project you're engaged in, or people you follow. Basically, so very much like a simple Google. So I'll just start with actually that site. So this is like your standard profile page for a person. This happens to be me. It looks just like any profile page does on any social media. We're cleaning this up a little bit, but you'll have your little brief amateur future democracy aficionado, occasionally successful philanthropist, etc. But Sharon was struggling with the reading. It's not the best blurb. I'll change that. That will show up if you're on the map and you click on my name. You'll just see that there's a brief description of who I am. And then down this side, you'll see quick links to writing or websites or whatever. You'll see tags, which are like the tags of the kind of topics I'm interested in, like the top three main topics. And we're going to add to here so this would be interests. We're going to add like talents or skills, my offers, and a few more, maybe the SDGs that I'm most interested in, and then all the connections I have. And on the other side, we have a bunch of functions that are connected to every circle. So what is interesting though is we also have a global view. And this is quite sparse at the moment because we just opened this like a week ago, so people haven't created new profiles. The former one was full of profiles. But so, for instance, I haven't got. I've got Robert here, but apparently, Robert, I don't know if you've created a profile yet. Let's click on you. Have you put yourself on the map?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I went to the wrong person. Let me go back.
Me too.
I'm going to go to
Maybe
Sharon too.
yeah, maybe I have to do it again because we switched recently. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, I think no, I can't see you as a connection. But, oh, sorry, you can't see this very well at all. But the idea is that I can see. There we go. I can see like all the people, all the projects I'm connected to on the globe. So if I now click to circles, then I can see at the bottom line, I can see these are the various projects or communities I'm connected to, and then I can see my connections on the geographical space. And if I zoom down and click on users, these are all the people I have connections with currently. Oops, sorry. Just zoom out. And here I can then see where they are on the planet, which is really handy. So you can see why this would be valuable because, there we go, I just need to move this around a little bit better. Yeah, you can see it's valuable because if I'm going any place on the planet, I can simply say, okay, 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be in Azerbaijan, in this region, and that my interests are sustainable economy, bio, agriculture, etc., etc. And then I can see, like, is there anyone in that space who's interested in these topics who'd like to meet up and talk about that, or any projects working on that while I'm there, you know, and that match my what I'm doing. So that's a few of the things that are exciting with the map. What else did I want to mention? Because I don't want to speak too much about here. So the best thing to do, I guess, is sort of just play around a little bit with this. I can't quite figure out. I'm just going to do here. If I click on this symbol, I'm supposed to zoom into where I am. Let's see if that works. I think my map has got a little bit, not quite sure why it is. I'm trying to get it more central. Yeah, so normally what happens when I click on this thing is that it zooms into my my space on the planet, and it's quite granular. So you can see how this could be useful to zoom in. Oh my God, this zoom is not working today at all. If you zoom in, you would then see exactly like where I am, what's happening around me, what projects are going on, etc., etc. So if I want to volunteer at any point in time, I can see what is going on. In the same way, we're adding a whole bunch of new things over the next few months, such as the altruistic wallet, and so I can sort of fund projects and many other things. So sorry, I think that's all the presentation time I have. So I'll see if you have any questions or thoughts while I try to get my globe back into right side up. I don't know if there's a right side out to the world, but you know what I mean. Interesting.
So first of all, Tim, I was not able to attend all in detail because I was needing to go out to do some little shopping. But I was grasping the idea and the intention, and I really love it. And I also love the name very much. One of my dreams is to create a world of cycles and spheres. So it is starting to become real with this. But what I was thinking of is a question that is also taking me a little bit crazy. It is the exclusion of the African people, especially, but also from other people that do not have any bank identity. So they cannot access to anything that requires to pay through the banking account. And because this question is driving me crazy for a long time, I have been thinking of a possible solution. It is like one save one. So I register for myself, and then I open 2 accounts. The second one is like paid account that I leave open for someone that will come into the network thanks to my contribution.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a great idea. It has come up. It's like, you know, when you buy an extra cup of coffee for somebody who can't afford.
Exactly.
And yeah, and I think that's definitely something we want to do, because or maybe even like 10 people, because what we want to sort of figure out is where a person's IP address is, and then like if you live in Berlin, it's going to be one price, and if you live in Cape Town, it's going to be another price, because of it's you know, we'll look into a basket of commodities, like what does a 6 eggs cost, and what does a carton of milk cost, and then we can see what would be a justifiable price depending where you come from. So we'll try to really change the pricing. But so let's say it costs a tenth in Cape Town compared to what it costs in Stockholm. And so if you gave the Stockholm price, you naturally have 10 people in Cape Town that you could now onboard. And the question is if, yeah,
there's no equality on that. And indeed, for me, playing like that will create automatically a motivation for people to register and pay, because they will see the first immediate benefit of registering. It is that you are enabling someone that is excluded from your rights to share the same frame of rights you have.
Yeah.
Automatically, that would motivate me to register and pay. Open a tandem, okay?
Yeah, I love this idea. I think it's really good, because really what we want to talk to about with codo is the idea of altruism. So you really want people to step into the platform with a gift, that like, I'm coming here because I want to give something, you know, and once I start giving, I will start receiving from others. But the main thing isn't what I need, but the main thing is, what do I have to offer? And everybody has something to offer, even if it's just time.
We're talking about how we can improve democracy.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine a global democracy excluding the people that it's excluded in everything else. So for me, the first way to improve democracy is to create the common ground.
Yeah.
For all of us. One people, one voice. One person, one sound. And other thing I think is very important. After my experience in Africa, I have learned it's not good to offer anything for free. You always need to okay, I don't want you to put money, but I want you to give anything, because if they do not, the African people, at least the ones I know, they have been growing up in the mindset of charity, and they are very much used to think that things do flow down from heaven, and you only need to sit down and wait and ask God to help you. I don't know. And sometimes they don't move. Okay, so I think even if they do not have to pay, it's important for me, for example, it would be important that my tandem and I do have a common language.
Yes.
Speak all the main international languages that are spoken in Africa: English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, and I think a little bit Netherlands, maybe, or German. And the one playing can share the preference. Like, I don't care, I speak all 5 languages, so I don't care. Or I only speak language, and I want a person that really speak my language, because I'm granting that person to enter the network, and I would love to know who that person is. A second thing is that I say, among the Africans, from the African part, I could create a register system in which when they apply to get their identity, so they introduce themselves and tell the others what for they want to be part of this. What is what they are trying to bring into the circle with their voice.
Mm.
So maybe I can, as paying one, I can also pick the one I think is the most interesting voice.
Yeah,
They will
sorry.
need effort a little bit. Not that it's just for free and come and take it.
So yeah, no, and I think that's a good point, and that's what I meant with to a degree with coming in with a gift. You know, you come in to offer something. You don't come in expecting, oh, great, I can join codo and then money is going to come to my projects, because first you have to do something yourself to prove yourself worthy of being funded, to prove that you
No,
actually care about your community. So what we could work with, what you should just, sorry.
No, you can also maybe one thing you can do is also invite people to introduce their projects.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
the mission, not the projects. I would love to say mission, because
Mission,
project is much like big idea. I prefer mission. What are you on?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm on creating, launching schools, trying to put water and electricity in the school in my village.
Yeah.
Okay, I love your mission. I want to support you.
Yeah, no, missions are, I agree, is like causes and missions is a much more emotional and stronger proposition. So, but to just to wrap up, so there's no misunderstanding. So anyone will be able to join the platform, but there will be some restrictions on what you can do. So my idea is that anyone can sort of create a profile and get access to information, but we want to avoid, especially in the beginning, that anyone can create a profile and then just post things, because then we're going to have to deal with a whole lot of spam and a whole lot of other problems, and it's very easy to kill the platform. You just like put in a few thousand bots and then you've destroyed the entire ecosystem. So to avoid that, we're thinking about that you can still come in and you can obviously vote on things and all these things, upvote and downvote. But if you want to actually comment on the open circles, then you need to be sort of a verified member in some way. And if that's a paying member, or it's also conceivable that, like, if you once you've done 5 or 10 community hours that are verified, then you also become a member with full access to doing everything. So the idea is it's not just financially funding it. You can also fund or support the project in other, or the platform in other ways. And one way is to actually do a lot of volunteer work, because once then you're also proven that you're quite reliable, and we can now allow you to have full access, because we can be fairly sure that you won't be using lots of negative terms and causing lots of problems. Oh, did we lose Joe soon? But the second thing I wanted to comment was also that if we do a system where you sponsor other users, you can actually pick who they are. So you could just select the ones who have done the most community work, or the ones you feel are most meaningful to give that gift of full membership, or whatever we want to call it.
Oh, okay. Okay, maybe last question if someone has, or we move to the next part of our meeting.
Maybe I can ask a question, Tim. I understand also being involved in the project, it's all open source. There are possibilities for groups to fork the program, because they can sort of make it their own identity a bit. And also I'm curious about, because there are several similar or platforms with similar vibes out there, and hopefully also open source. How do you see this interoperability evolve, or because it's there's already sort of a weaving network there with all these different specific, but I think codo is a beautiful example how we can connect with each other for change makers. But how do you see this this network connecting?
Well, yeah, look, I see everything we do is temporary, because where we're going in the next 5, hopefully 5 years, is into like a completely decentralized web. And then these central things won't really matter. The only thing will matter is the agreements, the protocols between people, how we interact with each other. So a lot of what codo is about is exploring the protocol of how do we cooperate on a global scale. So we're just creating one template to see how could this be done. How do you find information? How do you find what is the relevant information that you need? How do you find the people? How do you connect with people? So it's a playground to test it. And the idea is like we have one server to start with, and then we'll have 5 or 10 or 20, and then maybe we'll have 1,000 servers. And then once we're 10,000 servers that can communicate with each other, and at that point maybe we don't need those central servers anymore because it'll all be saved on our individual nodes and hubs. But we need to evolve into that. You know, we can't just design it and it's going to work. We need to sort of figure out what are the protocols for how to do this. So I see that codo is just one of many experiments in a fairly fertile ground of experiments, how this might look, what we want, how we want to find the information we're looking for, and how do we want to manage our relationships, etc. So it's a playground, a testing ground, but we're also speaking to the Haifa DAO, we're speaking to Seeds, we're like talking to a lot of other people working on similar things to see, well, how can we work together? Because I see maybe codo's main, apart from the altruistic wallet as a concept, I think maybe what codo can, or Circles can give you is like an interface. You then could build this interface on any backend you wanted, but it's an interface that makes sense to people. And if it makes sense to people, they will use it, you know. And I think, and I also think secondarily, I think it's really a vital place. It's vital for us to create a space where we can build identity online, because it's, you know, it's fine having an Airbnb and an Uber account, but it's very limited information about who you are. But if you have a place where you can go out, do a lot of community work, run a lot of projects, contribute in a lot of different ways, that says a lot more about your identity. And that now can be a basis for this online identity that we need to develop, so that as we travel the world, I mean, I maybe I've never met Uri before, but all I need to do is check his codo profile or whatever it's going to be called in the future, and say, oh, cool, he has like a 7.9 ranking out of 9 in trustworthiness. This is clearly a very, very trusted person. Then that's someone I'm quite comfortable having a meeting with, or giving my house keys to, because I know this person is vetted by the network. And that means that it's going to be really important that we actually behave in an honorable way, because we want higher rankings, because the more trusted we are by our local community, the more access we will have to other communities. And in the end, we join a platform like this because we want to create change. And to be a successful change maker, you need to be trusted, and you need access. So I think that's part of the game. If there's a game in codo, it's a game of trust. But thank you for the question.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, Tim, for your amazing work and all that you do for the betterment of humanity. And thank you all for attending and asking these beautiful questions. And yeah, until next time, all the best. Love you, and see you soon.